We'll now do the salute to the flag, and anybody want to volunteer?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So now we'll approve the order of the agenda. Do I have to do a full motion for that?
I move to approve the order of agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The order of the agenda is approved. And that will take us to item E, the blue folder items. That's everything I think we were just handed, right? Okay.
Do you want, I guess, do we need to make a motion to receive and file these, or do we just read them, or?
It doesn't say.
Okay.
I move to receive and file the two blue folder items, J2 and J3.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Do you want to take some time to look them over so that if there's discussion,
I
or they're just to go
think
with later?
Chairperson, I think we'll cover these when we get to the items.
Okay,
Because it's J2 and J3 supplementary material.
perfect. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to the consent calendar.
I like to pull August 1st minutes too for edits.
Perfect. Do you want to go through those ones first then?
I think we should, I think we normally approve the consent calendar.
Yeah, I move to approve the consent calendar with the absence of F2.
Do we have a second? I can second.
Actually, probably
Not
should.
necessarily- Not necessarily F2, because F2,
Is it, you said August 1st?
August 1st, yes.
Oh, with the exception of August 1st?
Yes.
I amend my motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of the August 1st meeting minutes.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. So now we'll move on to the excluded consent calendar item of the August 1st meeting minutes.
Okay, so for August 1st minutes in section E, these are just typographical errors. Commissioners does not have an apostrophe in the last word in that sentence. And then item I1, the last sentence, Library Director Anderson responded and provided clarification to commissioners' questions. Commissioners should have an apostrophe. Sure. Library Director Anderson responded and provided clarification to commissioners' questions.
Right before J.
Right before the line, right before J, exactly. And then, let me know if I need to slow down, I can. J1, third line down, the sentence that starts with based on the overall, that should have, the commissions should have an apostrophe based on the overall commission's schedule. And then K, section K, third paragraph, third line down, commissioners shouldn't have an apostrophe, so no apostrophe. And Same section, section K, the fifth paragraph down. At the end of that, in the middle of that sentence where it says on behalf of the library commissioners, again, no apostrophe. Next sentence, Library Director Anderson thanked the commissioners for the book. Again, the word commissioners has an apostrophe in it. And it repeats itself in the following sentence. Again, it's a similar sentence, Library Director Anderson thanked the commissioners for the book. Again, there's an apostrophe. And the last one is in section K, but on the last page, right above section L, Library Director Anderson further thanked the commissioners, and commissioners has an apostrophe, so no apostrophe. And that's it. Mhm. Thank you.
That will bring us to item H for public participation for any non-agenda items. Do we have any?
Actually, Chairperson, I think we need to receive and file the August with the commission's approval for the amendments. So I'll make a motion to, with the apostrophe corrections, receive and file the August 1st meeting minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Now we'll move on to any public participation. Do we have any comments online? Okay. So we can move to I, items continued from previous agendas, which I don't believe we have any. So we'll go to items for discussion prior to action. J1, the director's report.
Cover the bulleted lists that are in the agenda. I'm just going to read the report. The city of Redondo Beach experienced a power outage on Monday, January 30th at approximately 2:30 p.m. The North Branch Library and the Redondo Beach Community Service Center were affected. Library staff followed the library's power outage procedures and ultimately closed the library approximately an hour after the outage occurred. The power was returned shortly after. According to the library's current power outage procedures, if the power outage occurs during the day, the library can continue operations while there is sufficient light. On most days, the library is able to continue to operate because of the library's many windows and natural light. However, the afternoon of the outage, the weather was cloudy and rainy. Many areas of the library, including restrooms, were dark. Out of an abundance of caution with the safety of staff and public in mind, the library director made the decision to close. Unfortunately, this meant loss of library services for approximately 3 hours. The library plans on reviewing current power outage procedures to determine what, if any, changes need to be made. Status update on Open Plus. The library met with IT and Public Works to discuss implementation. Library director and the deputy director in Public Works met with Santa Monica library staff to see Open Plus in operation at the library's Fairview branch. In addition, Redondo Beach Library's draft Open Plus application and policy were submitted for review to the Redondo Beach City Attorney's Office, as well as examples of other libraries' policies, including Santa Monica, Nevada County, and Corona Public Library. Now on to youth services. This year's This year's 2023 Redondo Beach Public Library Summer Reading Program theme is Find Your Voice. It will run 10 weeks from June 10th through August 19th. We will include a variety of activities and programs. This year, we are aiming for 1,500 signups. We look forward to providing a completely in-person summer reading program with programming and activities for children, teens, and the entire family, including crafts, STEAM activities, and a field day. A variety of take and make crafts will be handed out to young participants as well. We will continue to offer our regular storytime rotation while also bringing in guest storytellers from the community, including Bill Bark, Niho, Redondo Beach's fire department and police staff. Youth Services had tentatively scheduled a summer reading kickoff carnival for Saturday, June 10th from noon to 3. The goal, like I repeat myself, but the goal is to register 1,500 children, 200 teens, and 200 adults. In addition to the summer reading program, Youth Services increased their online presence and added an Instagram account to our social media options. The new tool should increase our reach to the community. In addition, they are initiating a new program called Stitch and Sew. The program is for all ages, and the department is hoping that will help bridge the gap between our younger and more seasoned patrons through a shared activity of sewing. Hopefully this will be a successful intergenerational program. Safety and training. Redondo Beach Public Library is coordinating safety training and disaster preparedness with Redondo Beach Fire Department and the Redondo Beach Police Department. This week, the library is hosting the fire department for hands-only CPR and emergency preparedness training. This is just for staff. The training is voluntary, and we have approximately 20 library staff members registered. We hope to schedule other topics in the future, such as first aid, disaster preparedness and response, fire and safety, fire extinguisher training, earthquake safety, and earthquake preparedness. Working with the Redondo Beach Police Department, I met with staff on January 5th. On January 5th, the Redondo Beach Police Department held for staff a Red Cross blood drive. It was very successful, and the day was completely booked. I don't have the number of liters or anything that we got, but it was very successful. The library has scheduled a safety walkthrough on Tuesday, March 7th with the police department, library managers to review high traffic areas, lighting, access controls, sight lines, and other topics that might come up. The library will also schedule the run, hide, fight training for staff. Onto the new webpage. The City of Redondo Beach is migrating to a new web content management system, CMS. That company is called Revise. The estimated migration will take 6 to 12 months, and this will be an excellent opportunity for the library to refresh its online presence. The library's homepage receives over 50,000 visits per year. The library's homepage and calendar of events are consistently the second and third most visited city websites. A major objective of the project will be to move additional city services online and make existing online services more efficient. Some of these services include library card applications, material purchase requests, program suggestions, interlibrary loan requests, and meeting room reservations. During the coming months, the library managers will meet and review the library's online traffic flow, other library websites, and other services. Library assessment. Tim Parker, Technical Services Librarian, is registered for the Fundamentals of Collection Assessment. This 6-week online course introduces the fundamental aspects of collection assessment in libraries. The course is designed for those who are responsible for or interacting in the collection assessment in all types and sizes of libraries. Aaron Schoonover completed the Public Library Association's 2022 Public Library Services for Strong Community Survey and the California State Library's annual California Public Library Survey. Both, once both organizations compile these surveys, the Redondo Beach Library will better able to benchmark library services with other similarly sized libraries. Library outreach. The library has been invited to provide outreach at the Transit Center ribbon cutting on Tuesday, February 7th at 2 p.m. Community outreach is vital to promoting library program services and collections to the community we serve. Designated outreach staff attend events, visit organizations and schools within the city. We also partner with other agencies, other departments. Events that we attend are free and open to the public. Some of the challenges presented by our outreach are staffing, supplies, and incentives. During the coming months, library staff will review library procedures and capacity for providing outreach. Then a report on the unhoused. The library has been working with Lila Amora, the City of Redondo Beach's homeless housing navigator, to promote community resources for the unsheltered and unhoused. Several library users have been referred successfully to Lila, and some have made themselves available to services. Lila has informed us that one of the challenges for her clients is computer and internet access. They need access to computers to gather legal documentation, search for employment, apply for benefits, and look for housing. The main library has 14 PCs, and the North Branch Library has 8 PCs for public use. Access is free for library card holders for 2 hours of computer usage per day per card holder. The library requires a valid driver's license or ID card and proof of current residence in order to obtain a library card. Non-card holders can pay $2 for 2-hour sessions. Library card holders seeking additional time can also pay $2 for an additional 2-hour session. The library has agreed to provide limited free computer access to her clients. These clients must possess be pre-approved and provide a letter signed by the homeless housing navigator. We believe this collaboration will promote self-sufficiency while removing barriers to service.
Yeah.
Director Venke, I have 3 questions. First one, in the North Branch power outage, I have a bunch of seed questions behind that, but you're reevaluating the procedure because of light and dark, but does the library operate? I mean, can you check out books? What happens during the power outage?
There's a couple of different mechanisms. So for example, if there's a network outage, there is a backup mode for the computers. And then when they come back online, all the information is uploaded to the server. However, obviously the power outage is not possible. So they do have manual checkout, which also can be time consuming. You can verify the status of a user, but it's in place.
Okay. So why are you reevaluating the procedure?
I think it's always a good idea to reevaluate procedures, especially when they haven't been used in a while. My understanding is thankfully we haven't had this issue come up, but I would like to discuss with our managers and staff, if it's doing what it's supposed to. I've worked for different entities and they all have some different variation of how they handle it. One of the issues I found was as soon as I got to North, my cell phone stopped working. So normally I'm able to contact people.
All right.
So I would have checked like the Edison website, a bunch of other things I would have done, but it was a goner. Those are things that we might not have thought about in our original procedures and maybe trying to evaluate how best to accommodate those.
Thank you. My second question was around Instagram. My recollection was that there are city policies that restricted us, the library, from doing a lot of that kind of stuff, and it took a while to get Facebook approval. And I'm just curious, was that a barrier for you with Instagram? And if so, why not whatever, TikTok or I don't know?
Yes, I think that's an excellent question. We do have a social media policy, and so everything was channeled through that policy and city manager's office for approval. I think all entities are kind of wrestling with these different media platforms that pop up and making sure that, we're reaching the demographics we need to. But at the same time, I share your thoughts. I've been at different libraries where they wanted to have a TikTok account, and I've just kind of, with all the concerns regarding privacy and TikTok, I'm not sure it's a good fit for us at this time. However, I think we are looking carefully at Nextdoor, and I think that's a very good option, because I do think that there's a demographic there that would respond well to library services.
Yeah, it's hyper local. That's actually a great idea. I don't know why I didn't think of that. It's good. Snapchat is local too, even though the content isn't. My last question is about Open Plus access. I saw it in the notes, but I didn't hear it in your updates.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I did cover.
Maybe I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The Open Plus access information, I did provide an update, yes. Library met with IT and Public Works staff to discuss implementation. The library director and the deputy director for Public Works went to Santa Monica, met with staff to view it in operation at the Fairview branch. And also the Open Plus application and policy have been submitted to the city attorney's office for review, as well as examples of other libraries' policies.
So when we met last time, I think you were saying you're hesitant to put a timeline on it because there's all these other things happening, or even if it's a go, no go. Has that changed since the last meeting?
I think that we're, moving forward. I see good momentum, but I think you bring up a very good point. I think, working with other departments and seeing what sort of priorities come up, it's certainly a priority for us, but I certainly understand, other things come up. And so, to use the example of public safety, it's like, we might say, hey, worried about this minor thing and they have a big emergency to attend to. I respect that, and I know they have to prioritize. So we're working the best we can to navigate that. It's certainly a challenge, but I think we're cautiously optimistic, and we're moving forward with the project.
Okay, thank you.
For the Stitch and Sew event, is that going to be using sewing machines, do you know, or it's all hand sewn? Yes. Okay, do we have those that the library already owns, or do you partner?
We had this program actually a few years ago, pre-COVID, where a leader would come in and help people who were working on their own projects. I believe people are supposed to bring in their own machines if they have them available. The library does not have any machines.
Okay, thank you.
Director Venke, I had a few questions about your updates, and thank you for those. They're very, very informative. My first question is with respect to Open Access Plus and your visit to Santa Monica. Did you glean any insights from that visit, or any pitfalls that we might want to think about avoiding?
Well, again, being cautiously optimistic and utilizing the motto of under-promising, over-delivering, we did have, I think, a very good meeting and good conversation with staff there. Coincidentally, that location's door mechanism is exactly like the mechanism at North, which is extremely hard to, find. Everybody has a different type of door, what have you. But so we also got some more information on potential contractors to work on that, and we'll be meeting with a potential contractor, I believe, this week to do a site walk. So that's very fortunate. And I do feel like in addition to that, simply having additional contacts for myself, Public Works and IT, it's always one thing to call the vendor and have them walk you through something. It's something else when you talk to somebody that's actually doing it and in a similar situation. I will also say that I have visited both Open Plus locations in Santa Monica, and they are very successful. The libraries are very well maintained. People take pride in that service. And those libraries, they would not be able to provide service without open access, Open Plus. So budgetarily, they're making those libraries available 2 days a week. And that has certainly meant additional library services to the community that might not otherwise have it.
Okay, thank you.
I had a couple other questions. So with the new website, I think you stated that the library page gets 50,000 unique visits per year.
That was the documentation that I received, so.
Okay, that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
What will be the process for the migration? Would that fall on staff at the library to redesign the page, or will most of that be happening at a different level within the city?
Well, we will, as this isn't the first time I've been involved in this type of project, so we will meet with city staff and the vendor to kind of get an idea of what we envision the page to look like. I think there's an incredible opportunity to kind of redesign things on the page. And I certainly want to give the folks that did the last design respect. They worked with what they had, but this is an opportunity for a little bit more advanced software. Mm-hmm. And we did get data from the current vendor as far as traffic flow. So we'll be looking at traffic flow to try to make those high traffic areas very easy for people to navigate to. But I'm also excited about streamlining and making a lot of the services online. So we will meet with the contractor vendor, and usually I guess we could back up a little bit. The first thing we did was we reviewed our current website and made sure that all of the links were currently accurate, because you don't want to migrate data that is not valid, right? So once we've done that, then we meet with the vendor and we talk about basically like a crosswalk of where we think that data will go. Again, in under promising and over delivering, I'm hoping to get some refreshed images of the library. That would be a big one for me. I've seen some other libraries when they just redesign their website, they use the stock images, whatever's available. And people come in and say, "Where is that library?" And you're like, "Oh, it's not ours." So I'm really hoping that not only do we get some facility photos, but hopefully some, I just feel like it makes a better connection with people if they see actual humans using the library. Mm-hmm. And I have some experience again with that, but I'm not quite sure of the process, but I will find out. But I do know that makes a big connection with the community, being able to see their library and the library page, and also having it easy to navigate. So yeah, any other questions about that or something else? Go ahead. Yeah.
So for the revamp of the website, will it be the interface in addition to the search mechanism? Because I believe in the past few years, we've gone through different vendors to do the search behind the scenes, right? But the website, the interface has always been the same. There's always just been a different vendor behind the scenes. I believe we went through 2 or 3. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
I think so. So are we doing both the interface and the back end, or are we just doing just interface?
No, just a little clarification. So, we have the library catalog. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's Cersei Dynex. That has been, I think, the primary vendor for the city of Redondo Beach a long time. Yes. A long time. The web page has probably been refreshed a little more frequently. Other than those two, are you thinking of another component of the website?
Maybe I'm not.
Well, there was a discussion around addendums to Cersei Dynex to give recommendations and to, links to Amazon. I know we've had a lot of those kind of
Yeah, links to
discussions.
Amazon,
to
links
Amazon,
to
yeah.
independent booksellers type things.
But no, we did talk about the search engine on the webpage, I think,
Okay.
too.
So is the library then going to change the search engine, Cersei, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Oh, sorry. Cersei Dynex will remain our vendor, but I do want to say that there is a lot of opportunity to revamp the catalog. I've always been a proponent of trying to get as many services in the catalog because it's kind of one time to grab somebody. So if you have a database over here, if you can somehow get that or the resources, at least a link to it, you'll increase usage. It's kind of a win-win for everybody. So that's something I think longer term that we're looking at as far as refreshing the catalog.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you.
I think something that might be interesting too is to see if there could be an integration with Goodreads or, similar services like that, or is that not a?
No, I'm only smiling because I have done that before and I found that it's very successful. Again, just trying to strategize about our priorities, but I agree with you. I think that the social media interaction, there's a lot of potential that may not, incur additional cost. One issue that we're looking at or evaluating is the state library provides databases for free to all the public libraries. There's a certain number, you probably have seen them. I'm sure Susan brought them to your attention. And I don't want to get too much into the weeds here, but when you connect to a proprietary database, they usually require you to connect one of two ways, or I should say authenticate. They authenticate a lot of times on just the parameters of the barcode and PIN. Well, I should say the parameters of the barcode. So every library has certain parameters of 14, 13 digits, maybe starts with 5 zeros or, all these different things. So the database validates on that. The other option is what we call a SIP2 connection in library lingo. The SIP2 actually pings the ILS to validate the user. And just as I'm sure you've seen the drama with Netflix and other streaming wanting to crack down on passcode sharing, it's very similar. Databases we're getting these services for free, but they're saying, hey, we would really like to do a SIP2 authentication so we know that these are your users. The only issue there is that usually ILS systems, you have to pay per SIP2 connection. And then even if you said, I have the funding for a SIP2 connection, I'd like to initiate that, that kind of opens up that agreement with the database vendor, and that requires a lot more oversight. And it's not, again, these things are challenges. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't do them. We certainly should. They're free resources. We'd love to be able to provide them. So we'll work with the state library and the vendors to hopefully they have indicated that some of these resources that they plan on requiring SIP2 are ones that they would envision a gradual rollout instead of everything's gone next month. But yeah, there's a lot of inner workings that kind of, I always say one of the best books that ever taught me about the library administration is Give a Mouse a Cookie. Mm-hmm. And I feel like something always begats another thing and another thing and another thing.
Do you know if that redesign for the city website, are they taking into consideration mobile users as well to try to make it more
absolutely
friendly? Okay.
I'm blanking on the exact terminology of where there's a term, but it's device sensitive, definitely. And what's cool with these new websites are when you log in, you can view the page, what it looks like on a Galaxy phone, what it looks like an iPhone, what it looks like on a tablet. So those are all things we're going to have to take into consideration, but it's a very good point. I've used so many websites where I need to get to something, I have to scroll all the way down because the search button that's normally on the top on my browser, it just got lost. That's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, a great improvement.
We're looking forward to it.
Wonderful. The last comment I just had was that I really love everything you had to say about meeting with Lila for the services and particularly the free access for the online for the users. That's wonderful.
I think that's a win-win. And I have requested if we can, I'm sure that they track data, and that's all. I'm not interested in names, just data. But I would like to see potentially this year how many library patrons were referred and actually successful to the services. I mean, it's really heartwarming, it's engaging, and it's just, again, another aspect or facet the library can improve lives.
Other questions or comments?
I did have one additional comment on the director's report. It's not on the bulleted list. National Library Week is being celebrated the week of April 23rd through the 29th. This year's theme is There's More to the Story. We are very interested in requesting a proclamation in honor of National Library Week, and if so directed, we'd love to bring that back to you at our next meeting for a review. That's all I wanted to
What's
kind
the
of.
process for that?
I think it would be very, internally, we submit it to city manager's office, it goes to council, we usually draft the language, but it certainly goes through channels for review. But in order for me to bring it to you next meeting, we just ask, similar to the donation letter, that there's a motion and we'll bring it. Thank you.
I think we have to wait for member items and
Yes.
referrals to staff.
Yeah. Okay, so then we would move,
I think we need to.
oh, okay. Can someone make a motion to receive and file the director's report?
I'll make that motion to receive
Second.
and file the director's report.
I'll second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And we can now move to item J2, Connected California.
Okay, so I would like to bring this service to your attention. The Redondo Beach Public Library has partnered with the state library to provide access to these wonderful services. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to read a little bit of the press release because I already put that together. The Redondo Beach Public Library is now part of a new free service, Connected California, which aims to help community members find low-cost digital products and receive help navigating online from the comfort of their home. The service offers one-on-one help so community members may find low-cost internet service and computers, learn basic computing skills, and find and use online resources for career development and more. Community members can contact Connected California's team of digital navigators by phone, email, text, or through the online form. A skilled digital navigator will respond within 24 hours, Monday through Friday, and will work one-on-one with a community member by phone. Navigators are available to help in English and Spanish. That's really important that it's bilingual. And in the blue folder materials, if you take a look at that, I do have the draft press release, which I wanted to bring to your attention before we released it. And also some of the brochures that you find that will promote it. This is sponsored by the state of California, California State Library. It incurs no cost to us. There is no obligation for us. However, we can wish to promote it as little or as much as we like, and I certainly would like to promote it. I think it's a wonderful service, and our library helps support this, and hopefully the grant and the program will continue. They're looking at a lot of data, but they're looking at how many people they're serving, also how many libraries have joined. And given access to this program, it seems like an obvious win for the library and the state library. So we're looking at avenues to promote it. I think the press release is one aspect. We've added it online. And we'll certainly let staff know of the services. But do you have any questions about it?
Have you had a chance, oh, sorry,
Go ahead.
have you had a chance to talk with anyone who's used the service?
I do know that one of our patrons was referred there, but I haven't gotten any personal feedback. But I have met with Digital Navigator, and they have, without divulging any confidential information, have given me some examples of the people that they've helped. Thankfully, again, they're bilingual, so they're able to help people find certain services. They kind of on their end, they have all of their links. So, they're helping them find either low cost or free computers and low cost or free internet, depending on their particular situation. But I've also heard stories of older adults who needed assistance getting back into the workforce. So it's very, again, inspiring to hear those stories and that Digital Navigator connecting that patron to those resources. I think oftentimes it's an overlooked, kind of missing link. We have maybe all these resources that are available at a federal or state level, but people don't know. And especially if you're talking about the digital divide, and you have people that just, they need to get over that hump of equipment or internet access. So I think it's a wonderful service. But to answer your question, I have not spoken to anyone that's received the service or made available the service.
Do you know how many people have used the service? I mean, from the
I
state?
do not. I'm sorry. I think it's still relatively, do you know how long it's been going on? No. I think it's been going on for, I'm trying to remember, 6 or 8 months. So, we can certainly try to get some of that data. One of the things is I was hoping that, we'd promote it and the community would make use of it, and I'd go Redondo Beach. But I can definitely look that up. I'm sure they have it.
I had 2 questions. The first question is, what's the relationship between this and the wireless modem program that you brought up? I don't know, maybe it was last month?
Yes.
Are they completely separate, or?
Well, they are and they aren't, because as we talked about, developing or identifying a need, right? So a lot of libraries find that there's a need in the community to offer equipment and hotspots. So they circulate those. At Ventura County, they were extremely popular. The Digital Navigator looks up that person's zip code and finds the nearest local services. So they're not going to refer someone to Ventura unless they're a little closer to that.
Right.
But they have a dashboard of what all the libraries offer, and it's not exclusive to libraries. There are other services that they can direct folks to. But so if the library identifies a need in the community to offer this, the Digital Navigator is another avenue for that person to locate the service.
Got it. So if Redondo Beach Library decided to have those hotspots, they could be part of this program.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's a really good example because, again, given the nature of our society, someone might be in Redondo, not find the Digital Navigator, not realize that their own library has something they can check out for their use. So I think it's a good network.
Thank you. And the second question I had is, it's a free service provided by the state that doesn't cost the library anything, but what is the library actually doing then?
Well, I think if you take a look at the brochure, we'll have our emblem on it. The state library, it's a grant-funded program. So the more libraries that avail themselves of the service, the more they can make the case to continue the service. And the more obviously people they serve. It's all service-based. We want to serve more people.
Okay.
So
our participation in we don't have digital navigators who are librarians. We are just promoting it as the library. Is that
correct?
Okay, understood. Thank you. Good program, I think.
Seems like it would be great to promote across the social media, now Instagram and Facebook, and maybe next door down the road.
Yeah, definitely. And certainly sent the information over to Lila so that she can help folks there. But we're always interested in new and different ways to promote the service. So I was thinking about reaching out to our senior centers and seeing if they could take some additional brochures.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Receive and file this too. Yeah. Okay, so can someone make a motion to receive and file the J2 Connected California?
I'll make that motion to receive and file Connected California.
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And that will take us to item J3, the mid-year budget request letter.
May I? Oh, do you want to
A
go?
question, but
I do too.
go ahead.
Is this last year's letter or is this a revised letter?
It's a revised one.
Okay, because I was like, I don't remember writing this.
It's new. Yeah.
It's a revised letter, and again, still being relatively new, I was examining what areas of the collection and services we feel are most needed. There are certainly other projects that may take a little bit longer to implement or identify. But this one really speaks to inclusiveness and the diversity of our community. The two items that you have or in the blue folder was recent 2020 article from the LA Times. It was talking about the challenges that providing services to a multilingual community, what those challenges are faced by libraries. It's probably no surprise that it's multifaceted. It's obviously identifying the community members and how best to serve them. But also, it's a big challenge to find vendors. And ebooks or electronic books are already a challenge. It's even harder to find digital versions of these books. So again, I'm probably a little biased, but I do think it's a worthwhile endeavor. And I'm available if you have questions or comments regarding the letter, if you think anything should be changed or direct us to do some more research, or identify another goal.
Yeah, so that was kind of my question. So the first two paragraphs are multilingual, then the other then we break down the 50 into digital, juvenile, and adult, if I remember correctly. Adult, yeah. So I have two questions. My first question is this just multilingual? So this is, or are we also doing English refreshing when you look at those three? Because it wasn't clear to me if the 50,000 was all for multilingual or.
Right. And we can definitely, take a look at the letter again and make that a little bit more clear. It's designed multilingual for individuals that may speak another language at home, but also people that are learning another language. The adult literacy aspect is a separate collection that I think should be addressed, but I didn't want to necessarily confuse, and I apologize if I confused anybody, but one of my first director reports, I said I had met with the president of the South Bay Literacy Council, and I would like to continue to work with that organization to identify resources that the community might need, and English as a second language instructors might need to help support them, but that would be a separate service. I'm trying to think about some of the, they have different programs for ESL, obviously, but there were some really interesting things. For example, I did purchase a collection a while back where it was back. This is how old it was as a cassette tape, but it was a cassette tape and a book, but it was read at a slower rate so they could follow along, and I thought that was really sharp. The issue today would be, of course, for that particular. If you're looking at a literacy collection, I think that would be, something we might look at separately, or if you so direct us to, we could try to incorporate it here, although I'd have to defer to Erin and see what her experience is with literacy collections here. No.
So Director Vanke, coming back to my first question, I don't have an opinion on whether it should or shouldn't be focused on multilingual. I defer to you, but it's confusing because of the way we've written it.
I
It's
apologize.
almost like we should have I don't know if this is right, but you should say, maybe that should be its own thing. You know, if we're asking for 50,000, maybe we ask for, I don't know, 10,000 digital, 10,000 juvenile, I'm making it up, 10,000 adult and 20,000 multilingual. You know what I mean? It's almost like we tee up multilingual in the first two paragraphs, and then we talk about these three different categories, and it's not clear if it's all multilingual or if it's multilingual in English. So it's like we got different colored eggs and then we mix it up. It's
I
kind of
apologize for that. So it would be multilingual, adult, youth, and digital.
So the 50,000 is multilingual.
Yes.
This whole
I'm
thing
sorry.
is multilingual.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that wasn't clear to me until just now. Okay.
Sorry.
You could maybe put that into the subject.
You know, it is clear in the first two paragraphs. It's just,
It wasn't clear to me either, so don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm really-
I found it a little disjointed.
request a mid-year increase in the amount of 50,000. If we just took that second paragraph, therefore the Library Commission is respectfully requesting a mid-year increase in the amount of $50,000 to improve the multilingual collection for the following, then there would be no ambiguity. I would have got it right away. It's just, it felt like we shifted gears when we started talking about the digital collection. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to, before we make edits, I just had my point, I'm hoping will steer us in a proper direction. So first, maybe I'll switch my thing. If we say it's $50,000 for multilingual, are we committed to $50,000 for multilingual? Do you see what, because there's many, right?
Yeah,
So
there's been instances where we've said, if you had 50, this is what we do. If you gave us 30, this is what we would do.
would you use all 50? If we were given all 50, would you use all 50 for multilingual and nothing else?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. Because I also could see that they said, well, if you, let's say they gave you 75 and they're like, they still want to see all that for multilingual. I just make sure that, because there's, like, they'll give you for one bucket, but you can't take from one bucket and put into another bucket, right? So that, and I also feel like if we do go the multilingual route, I feel it would be more impactful if we actually had percentages from Redondo Beach as opposed to US. Maybe connect with the school district and see
Okay,
what,
yeah.
what their non-native English speakers percentages are, and what, if they have them, what languages they may be, because I would hate for us to purchase books in a certain language and we don't have any of that demographic here, right?
Definitely. And again, being able to assess those needs is important, obviously. So we have a variety of ways of doing that. And I think you touched upon one that's very useful. In addition to that, there is data from the catalog. Circulation is, I would say, a little challenging because when you have a collection and then in places is so antiquated, it's not going to circ well. It's going to be
Right.
kind of like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. But you definitely, and then the other thing is that you could certainly go by certain demographics, purchase those materials, and then you obviously have to highlight and make the community aware that they're available. So I think it's very challenging, but you're absolutely right. We would want to take a look at our constituency and align those languages for our library. But that's certainly one avenue is the school district if they're able to assist us.
WorldPopulationReview.com, I don't know if that's a reputable site, but they think that we're 71.45% English,
You know, I'm sorry.
12.44% Asia Pacific.
I'm sorry, I apologize. And again, you know, I definitely have reviewed this a lot, but maybe sometimes when you're writing, you just kind of lose track. But that 24.6% is according to US Census for the city of Redondo Beach.
Oh,
I
it
did
is.
make that clear.
I was going to say,
I
I think the most
apologize.
recent census data should be available, that you can find it
Yes.
for the
So
city.
this is for Redondo. Maybe just say Redondo?
Yeah. And then it's a separate census, and I forget the name of the census, but it's one that's designed specifically for these types of demographics, and it's America something. But I think it's American Data Survey. So that's, those types of assessments come out a little bit more frequently than the census we're all kind of used to every 10 years. So again, I apologize for that not being clear. It should, that was the latest census data for the city of Redondo Beach, that 24.6%. And I think, again, I'll have to refer to it when I create another draft, but I think that was as recent as 2020, but I will double check and verify. So thank you for pointing that out. It's certainly important to me to bring this need home.
Yeah, I highlighted similarly. I just think maybe a little bit more statistics there would be nice, similar to this article that you gave, the kind of top part of the second page where they're explaining how the population has shifted in the last, 10 years, especially since we're later referring to a lot of the materials being outdated from the 80s and 90s. So really speaking to how the population has shifted and maybe even including like the top 5 languages that we see locally, which that maybe would come from talking to the school districts or other places that would have more knowledge about that.
Going back to what Andrew, Commissioner Beauchamp mentioned in terms of like a hypothetical breakdown of 10, 10, 10. And I'm wondering, would it be safer to make that a subcategory as opposed to committing ourselves to all 50,000 to be used? Because I feel like, I don't know if it can be, I mean, do you think it can be used for all 50?
Yeah, I did. I think it's one of those things, because that was my first thought. It's been a while since I've acquired international languages for a library. But in talking to staff, with the process and from my own personal background is that amount of money, while it seems like a lot, can shrink relatively quickly, especially if you start dividing it up between 8, 10 languages. So I do think that that money could and will be spent. It's just that, with the digital resources, I don't want to say it's fairly easy, but there are certain languages available via our ebooks. With the print books, once you identify the need in the community, you have to find, a vendor. And fortunately, in talking to some of our other library friends in the South Bay, they've referred us to several vendors for a variety of languages. So it would be identifying those. And then I do think that amount of money is, I think it's realistic. Did you have anything you wanted to add at all? Yeah. Especially since you're not just looking at purchasing materials, you're looking at refreshing a collection, and that can go quite a ways.
So if I'd be happy to share this link with everyone, but there is an annual enrollment data on the district website. And it does go from student ethnicity to student subgroups. Now, it doesn't really talk about languages spoken, but it's something.
Oh, yeah.
The one that I have, World Population Review, says Asia Pacific is second to English, and then Spanish, and then other Indo-European languages.
Well, and I know.
I guess 8.5% for Spanish, but I would have guessed higher than that.
Right. For our district, it says 44.2 for white, 24.5 for Hispanic or Latino, 11.2 for Asian. Those are
Maybe the 24.5, but most of them speak English, so.
right. Now, there is actually something that's higher than Asian. It's 15.1 for some biracial. So we don't know.
But that's race versus language.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So we could certainly bring this back with additional data and references to that. I think it's a good idea, certainly.
I had a second question. I don't know, Commissioner Coopin, are you?
I just found one more subgroup on here. It does say 4.1% is English language learners. So on the total enrollment of 9,600.
That's interesting.
What was the-
1%, well, if they're English language English language learners, then that's the 24%, right? For all ages, right? I mean, if I understand the concept. So ages 5 to 17, 80% are English, but as you get older, the number that speak English drops. And when you get to 65, only 75% speak English. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay, because this is actually different, right? This is a subset, whereas the library is looking at a different subset, right? They're looking at the larger group, which makes sense, especially in homes that are of any ethnicity. There's multi-generationals in that home, correct? So I think that's where the numbers, they do actually mesh.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
My second question, unless you wanted to continue on that. Okay. My second question is on the digital collection. Maybe my understanding is wrong, but I thought that Hoopla, we paid just per check out. We don't pre-purchase, right? And then Overdrive is the one where my understanding we share with another set of libraries, so we don't have to pay full freight. Could you remind me how that all works?
Yeah, definitely. You're absolutely right about Hoopla. That's a flat rate. The two other platforms, Libby and Cloud Library, those are ones we actually go in and select titles. However, both have unique ways of making other titles available. And I know for Cloud Library, for example, if you're willing to share your collection, then you make other library collections available to your patrons.
Okay.
And they do a good job of, they're not letting other libraries borrow your bestsellers.
Mm-hmm.
They're anything that's just available on the shelf, maybe hasn't checked out in a while. So your patrons still have access and can get the bestsellers. But both of those platforms provide multiple language materials, but to varying degrees. So obviously Spanish is pretty high. It's harder to find other materials. And we would continue to investigate what other avenues are out there for providing digital resources, for sure. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. I just maybe I'm being nitpicky, but when I saw Hoopla and then I saw 40 to 75, I was thinking, well, that's not entirely true, right? It's true for Overdrive and Libby, but not true for Hoopla, right? Unless my understanding is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, I think we would probably be looking at Overdrive, Cloud Library, and potential other third-party softwares that could provide these languages. The Hoopla, though, does provide data as far as what languages are being utilized in their collection.
And their collection's completely open, isn't that right, Director Henke? I mean, that's their pitch, is that you have this long tail, we have this big catalog, you pay this just when people use it. So I might suggest that Hoopla's probably the place to know what languages people are interested in. Because it should be a complete catalog, no?
Well, I think there are some limitations, and in reviewing the data that staff had sent to me, and I'm trying to find it here, but it was interesting for sure, and we would want to, I think I have it here. This one. I think it would merit a little bit more of an investigation, because according to Hoopla, the top 10 non-English languages by circulation, number 1 is French.
Oh.
Number 2 is Spanish. Number 3 is Swedish.
These are not,
I wouldn't have guessed that.
I've never
Next is
guessed.
German, Danish, Italian, Norwegian, Russian, Japanese, and Korean. So when I saw that data, I was like, well, I would want to probably verify that. And it could be, with such a limited collection, there are a lot of things that could kind of skew that data. So you while they have the stuff available, just a little anecdote is when I was in the Sister City exchange program, I was the adult leader. We went to trying to remember I'm blank on it. Our sister city in Japan, and the host family took me to the library because they're like, "Oh, you're a librarian." So I got like a first-person view of what it's like to kind of see that collection. And what was it? It was some classics, Huck Finn, Tale of Two Cities, and then a couple of whatever the popular titles were, like Da Vinci Code. And that really is one of those things that brings it home to you, because you're like, wow, I understand they can't provide a whole nother library in English. I get it. But this kind of looked like basically some donations. So some of these collections you see, the nice thing about Overdrive and Cloud Library is if they provide those resources, they can be selected for, whereas Hoopla, it might just depend on what languages they're able to license, or what materials and what languages they're able to license. So that does make it a little challenging. And when I saw, I love French, but when I saw it being number one, I was like, I need to get some more data.
What's the I don't know if you have this, but what's the percentage of non-English over total in terms of Hoopla? Is it a teeny tiny number, or is it?
It's not huge. I'm trying to see. It says here, languages borrowed, 26 total, 326 non-English titles borrowed.
Over what time?
I need to find that out, because it looks like, according to this, and I had to verify it, but it looks like titles currently available is around 13 million. So that is, if that's true, and again, we'd have to report back to you, but that would be a considerable small.
I'm sorry, you said 200 and some?
Non-English titles borrowed, 326.
326. And
I
that
got
was
to
over
see if the
what time
title
period?
currently available means the multilingual, or is that just an entire? That's why I had questions myself. That's why I didn't put it forward as an attachment, because it's still somewhat unclear for me, but we can get clarification on that.
I would be interested, just to make sure that we're serving our patrons. So 326, if that's a month, then it's like, okay, there's a ton of demand. If that's a year, that's not a lot.
I think the important thing is that again, it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. These services aren't really being promoted as multilingual, even though there may be some Spanish titles, for example, in there. So, having a collection and a resource that we could refer people to that actually had them, would anticipate some use, especially off some, some of the demographic, the larger languages. But, if someone comes in looking for multilingual items, I'm not sure how much staff thinks, I'll give them Hoopla. They usually walk over to the shelf, or maybe they check Overdrive. It's something we definitely have that conversation with staff, but I know just for me personally, even though these collections are available there, it's not something I would easily recommend a patron. Obviously I should, but I don't think it's been promoted to that constituency in that regard.
That's fair. And maybe just my last thought on this Hoopla thing is, if, let's just pretend that Spanish is actually number one, but it's only like 8.5% that need it, and maybe, 20% that would want it. That would feel like natural, but let's just say that's 12% that's Asian languages, and then you have to go, well, geez, Japanese, Korean, Mandarin. Are we talking about single-digit percentages of our population? And then are we serving our community by spending a lot of money for those single-digit percentages? You know what I mean? Versus Hoopla, which has 13 million titles and potentially can capture those 1%ers.
Sure.
When they need them. I'd be interested in understanding, is the Hoopla collection crap, or is it Is it good? And maybe we could better serve those single-digit % people with Hoopla, because that's kind of their pitch.
Right.
But always, wherever the collection is, the multi-language collection, wherever you could advertise Hoopla right
Yeah.
there. And, have people go there.
And maybe even have the Hoopla rep, whatever, give us the materials to promote it.
Yeah, I will definitely investigate that. And talking to our technical services librarian, he did say that he believes that a majority of those circulations are periodicals and not books. So that kind of leads me to additional questions.
I'm just trying to think of French periodicals. I have no idea what that
The
would be.
issue with Hoopla, and it could have changed from the last time that I looked at it, was they definitely have a broad base, but they tend not to have necessarily the best sellers.
Sure.
Which I understand, are
Sure.
reasonable, that's fine. But I would be interested in knowing, because if we were to request and receive funding for it, we would definitely want to make sure that it was going towards something meaningful. And, if, and I'll just use company A and B, if company A can provide quality resources that we know are reputable versus company B that may provide a bunch of resources, but it's not really that much. It kind of goes back to my other analogy. So, I mean, it's a difficult thing. The reason why I had put this together was I do believe that there is a
Room
need,
for improvement.
and I think it makes a statement. There was a really nice quote that I would like to read. That was from the ALA document that I provided you. It said, it is the responsibility of libraries to provide equitable service to all members of their communities, regardless of ethnic, cultural, or linguistic background. Providing library materials for ethnic, culture, and linguistic groups should not be seen as additional or extra service, but as an integral part of every library service. Libraries should establish goals, objectives, and policies to integrate multilingual services to the overall work plan. So, it could, it could be that this is just, in the long run, becomes more part of an assessment component. But I do think that it is an integral part of our library service. And like I said, budgetarily, it just hasn't been able to get the attention it needs.
Thank you, Director Benke. And just to be clear, I'm deferring to you. I'm just trying to
Oh, yeah, I
provide
appreciate
perspective.
it. Absolutely. I want to make it the best letter possible. I guess the direction that I would be looking for is, would you like me to bring something else back or rewrite the letter, get more data? What
What
would you
does
like
it
to
do?
see?
When's the meeting?
I'm trying to
I
remember.
feel like it's March or April, right?
It feels like we ought to have a letter done next month. I'll make a motion that,
Oh, I have a few more questions.
I'm sorry?
I have a few more
Oh,
questions.
go ahead.
In our current collection, how many languages are represented?
I've got that. Got that on a spreadsheet here. I got too many documents, but I do have that, and I don't think, oh, here it is. So about 12.
Languages.
I can, let me just get my glasses. So we have and these are obviously small, some of them vary in size, right? Chinese, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Korean. It says Latin, but I have to get some clarification on that. Russian, Spanish, Swedish, Vietnamese, and then other. One of the other issues that, if we were able to assess the collection and get funding, would be to better track it electronically, because most libraries assign these as an item category, and there's lots of materials here, just as an example. According to CERSTI, we don't have any Japanese books, and yet when staff went to the shelf, we had something like 2. Same with Korean. And again, I respect everybody that came before me, but usually when you implement a collection, you create an item category for language. They're usually there already, but you assign those, and then in a year you can get that data. I mean, that's useful, obviously. But due to the way the system was set up, some of these numbers that I have in my hand were manually counted because the database doesn't reflect those. So, there's a whole issue with finding, right? So you get the collection, you put it up there. We want to make sure that people could find it and have access to it. One of the things that I think we would seriously take a look at is just, location, for example. It's all the way in the back of the main library. We would definitely want to maybe bring that out. And I don't want to, I'd be careful of other collections. I don't want to say, magazines, we can put those in the back. But we would definitely want to try to find a way to highlight it, or at least direct people back if that ends up being the most appropriate space. But it just kind of looks a little forlorn back there. And, it's kind of like those grocery store analogies where they used to put the milk in the back because you'd go through the entire store and hopefully grab some stuff on your way to pick up milk. So, yeah.
So my other question then, and I think it's more rhetorical, but you don't have an accurate circulation number for 2 reasons. Because the collection is dated and you don't have an accurate tracking system, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So we don't really know, we don't really have any from our actual collection in the library.
Right. And it's kind of the chicken, the egg thing. We would want to, again, assess the demographics to purchase in line with that demographic, make the resources available, and then in a year or two, assess the demand. But, we're kind of in that situation where one language, we have 2 or 3 books and they're from 2012, and so we're like, even if I was able, and I could, don't hold me to it, but we could catalog those very few books that we have, but I don't anticipate much circulation because they're not, it's not a large collection. And it's the opposite of large. It's a small, tiny collection. And again, I appreciate the people that acquired them and made them available, but there's a lot to be said for collection size. One of the things as an option to keep it fresh is we could do what we call a floating collection. So usually what happens at multi-branch libraries is the collection gets stale and you send the patron over there. So then what happens with a floating collection is people that return it stays at that location. So if I borrowed it at Maine, dropped off at North, all of a sudden it becomes North, and you help kind of with a refresh of both collections. But I think that would be more from a cataloging technical services side. But again, you kind of have to have the budget to purchase the materials in line with the demographic data that's presented to you so that you can accurately reflect that in your reports later on. Does that make sense?
When people sign up for a library card, is part of the application asking them for preferred language?
I don't think so. And it's something that I would like to look at. We're obviously very concerned about people's privacy, what have you. But voluntary language preference would certainly give us some additional data to help us do our collection, as well as potentially surveys, although that would be kind of challenging. So you're absolutely right.
I was trying to think about other ways to help expand the multilingual services and materials that we have. Because admittedly, regardless of the amount of money, it's not going to go far enough to be able to serve everybody with the content that they want, right? Somebody might want a romance, somebody might want a history book. So it'll be very difficult. So I think we can put some thought into, in addition to requesting money for a collection to go out and purchase materials, potentially some sort of community outreach. If people have books in their language that they've loved that are just sitting on the shelf, maybe we kind of supplement the purchasing of things with community contributions. Not only will serve the multilingual audience better, the multilingual patrons better, but it also encourages that feeling of community of people contributing to the library. That might be something to add or to add as a buffer. And then my only other note on here is the date on the letter.
Oh, right, I'm sorry, I just
The
put a
top and in the
placeholder.
subject line. Yeah, just based off what you were just saying, I think potentially utilizing Friends of the Library too could be useful for this, just to see what sorts of things are they having donated from the community, and is there something in their collection that would be multilingual that, we might be able to
I think
utilize.
there's definitely worth investigating. Again, in my experience, it's, definitely kind of hit or miss, and you certainly wouldn't want to develop a collection that's primarily donated materials.
True.
So it's definitely something, we could look at as a supplement for sure. But yeah, getting that information from donations. So, yeah, as far as direction, I'd be happy to go in any direction you would suggest.
Commissioner Gutman, do you want to?
Well, I was just thinking, I wonder if you can say in here that we want to use a percentage of the monies for multicultural collection. I'm just thinking about pigeonholing ourselves. I feel like I always, like a contingency plan, just in case, because I think between now and whenever this gets approved, or I just feel like there's something might come up. I would like to make sure you have some sort of reserve in case that happens. But if you don't feel that's necessary, I'll respect that decision also. I do feel that the letter, now that we have a better understanding, it makes sense. It does kind of jump into it quite quickly. I'm wondering if it can be, maybe start with the data first.
Yeah, I will say, and again, I apologize, is my assumption, but I was kind of working off another template. So I, again, getting acclimatized to, I'm very much more verbose. So I can add additional information. I can add more background. And it's something we could work on. I know that it's time
Director
sensitive.
Finke, I might suggest don't be verbose. If this is going, yeah, we want to keep it tight. We want to keep the message clear because they're not going to think about it nearly as much as at the depth that you do. So we want to make sure that it's a really clear ask. So if anything, my suggestion would be just make it super clear. There shouldn't have that ambiguity that Commissioner Koopman and I had about, well, wait a minute, what are these three things? It just should be like dead simple. So sorry, just when I heard you say you can expound on it, I don't think that's what we want to do. For us, sure. For them, no.
No, yeah, they, from what I understand, the council members look through a lot of paperwork, PDFs. So I feel like what they would do, who's it from, and what are the dollars, right? Dollar amounts, right? That's what they're going to look for. And then they'll decide from there, right? That's so, and always trying to keeping it to a page if we can. That way they're not continually turning the pages, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I do think it maybe just needs a little more clarity of like, where are we right now and where do we want to go, so that we really see this ask that we're making has a clear direction for where we want it to take us.
Well, again, I know things are time sensitive and I want to be cognizant of that. Like I mentioned with our director's report update, Tim is attending that workshop on collection assessment. He might get some valuable tools from that. It's something that we could bring back in time. I'm not sure it would be ready next meeting, but, especially wouldn't be available taking a light what Tim's, learning as far as collection assessment. So if you would like us to rework this with some additional data points and a little more background, we could do that. If you'd rather have us focus on National Library Proclamation, we do both.
Director, I'd like to make a motion that, based on what you said, this, in your professional opinion, this is an area that our library could use some help. So I move that if you can just make the current state what we need,
Right.
what the impact will be, as tight as you can. I feel like that's something that we could approve and we could have our chairperson sign.
Yeah, I do want to say that absolutely, I do think that there is a need in the community, and I certainly see that professionally, the collection, and for whatever reason, again, respect to everybody that came before me, that collection has been not profiled enough. But again, it takes, hypothetically in the future, if you were requesting an additional budget request, after some time and the right cataloging, you would have some numbers to reflect that. We're kind of in a situation where we're in a little bit of a ditch with many of the languages. And then you're like, well, you don't really have the data because there's no data there because you have two books.
So as I have moved, I guess let's take another crack at it for next week. And then, that's my motion.
We have a second?
I'll make the second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. All right. And I think you were asking if we also wanted to focus on the proclamation.
I want to make sure I'm following proper procedures, but I believe that there would be a motion to.
My understanding, Director Venke, is that as our director, you can put items on here without our, if you believe.
Tell me that.
Yeah, if you believe something is worthy of the commission's attention, you own the agenda. You add it to J item. So if tomorrow you just, for example, if you decided to have multilingual as a topic before the budget letter, I believe as long as you do it before and it's public, you're good to go. So member items and referrals to staff are for ideas from the commission to you versus your ideas. Your ideas are the agenda.
Yes, I would anticipate then on the next agenda, hopefully a draft proclamation for review and discussion and input.
Okay.
So in terms of the letter, I know that myself and Commissioner Walls, was it Walls? It wasn't Worsing, right? It was you.
The last one?
We said we would review the letter, right? Is that right?
The last meeting, I believe.
Yes, it was last meeting. Oh, was okay. I couldn't remember who it was. Thank you. I know we volunteered to do that. We can review it, the two of us can review it by email and have it ready for the next meeting.
And we already moved and approved it, so it's done.
Yeah.
And as long as it's not what's the word I'm looking for, three or more, then you're not in violation of the Brown Act. So if it's just two as a subcommittee, that's fair game.
Another, not to jump around, but I was thinking if we could get some data on our compatriots in the South Bay. It's not exactly the same, but they could provide us with some data that would be very much useful for us.
Yeah.
But yes, in terms of, would that then be a working group?
It's a working subcommittee, we called it. And the three of you can email, but we can't see it until the next meeting.
Well, if everyone's okay with that, we can proceed.
Yeah, we already approved it.
I think we said at the last meeting. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, that's typically how we've done the budget request letters each time, is there's two committee members that help out.
So Commissioner Goodman, you didn't read this until you got the packet. I didn't realize that until just now.
Right. I
Okay.
did not. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize.
No,
No,
it's
it's
all
okay.
good.
It's fine.
It's all good. We still have time.
And that's why
Still getting used to
and I
it.
actually thought it was last year's letter Because
Oh,
the way
okay.
it was formatted, I'm like, oh, it looks like last year's letter. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I'm like, wait a minute. So
Definitely. Thank you.
it's okay though. So yeah, it's just email us and we'd be happy
Definitely.
to review it.
Do we need to receive and file for that letter yet then, or we would wait?
So at this point, I guess we're at member items and referrals to staff.
Right.
If there are no, then as chair, you can,
Oh, I think she was going back to the mid-year budget. It is a line item. It is a line item. Do we need to
which one?
mid-year?
J3.
J3,
We need
yeah.
to receive and file.
Oh, no, we made a motion that he's going to come
That will
back
just
and,
come back.
and
Okay.
and so I think that one's closed unless somebody else wants to amend it.
Okay, so then we're to item K, member items and referrals to staff. We're good.
I have a question. Maybe we can, going back to the topic of social media. It would be nice for us to have some sort of presence out there. A lot of libraries have Instagram. LAPL has Instagram. They do a really cute thing. There was one that someone tweeted. They said, wouldn't it be great to borrow books? If someone had posted, like I don't know who it was, but someone on their Twitter feed said, wouldn't it be great to just borrow books from people and then just rotate books? And LAPL retweeted that, like, yeah, that's the library. So I forget, that's not the exact wording, but it'd just be nice to have a bigger presence on, I realize there's city limitations because we have to follow the city guidelines, but if we can somehow make some headway on that, I think it would be really good for the library. So maybe talk about social media at the next meeting, or maybe do some research prior to that meeting.
Definitely.
Is
Yeah.
there a specific staff person who runs the social media?
Hilaire, who was here presenting for the summer reading program statistics, she's kind of our point person on that. She attends the city, has regular meetings with the representatives of each department that are in charge of their social media so that we're all on the same page and coordinated. So, I could definitely see if she's available to come and give us an update on our presence on social media. One of the things is hopefully with the new website, we'll be able to integrate some of these. I know some websites, I don't want to make it look too busy, but some include their Twitter page, and there's that keeps it refreshed and interactive, and it also directs your web traffic to your social media. So that's definitely an option. I can talk to her and ask her about that for sure.
Right? Just to get some presence out there, it would just maybe, I think the mention of Nextdoor was a great idea, but I do feel like it doesn't have to, I think Instagram would probably be the best one.
They have it now. That's what they're saying.
Oh, we do? The
Yeah,
LA,
I'm
the
sorry.
Redondo Library?
Brought that up and
Yeah, Instagram.
Oh, I missed
Started
it.
it. Yeah, part of
Oh,
the
okay.
director's report.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good to know.
they just got it and they're populating it. I think we're taking a look at ways we can encourage usage. I think with it, obviously each one's a little bit different. There's time involved in creating the social media. But some are a little bit more active and some are more passive. And I think of things like, Nextdoor is obviously community-based, but you could be on Facebook and Instagram and just have a worldwide following, and so there's a lot of aspects to it. I think Hilaire would probably have some more information if we would like to have a
That would
social
be great.
media
please.
report.
And I apologize, I did somehow miss that. But what is the Instagram handle?
Oh, I don't know if I have that on me, but I can send it out.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you want to make a motion for the referral to staff?
I was looking for the Instagram handle. Yes, I would like to make a motion as a referral to staff to talk about social media at our next meeting.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Do we have any other member items or referrals to staff? Any web comments that came in?
Didn't see any. A topic for another discussion under outreach was, and this could be an item or in the future, but certainly we've had I've had success at other libraries with incorporating commissioners in our outreach. And it would be something I just want to know if there's interest there, we could pursue that. But I first wanted to gauge interest.
We've been invited to different events before.
Okay.
I believe there was one at Northrop. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah, all the time.
And then we've been here for something, I can't remember, but there's been a few events.
The back to school thing, promotion thing.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And also they've also asked us to help at summer reading kickoff.
Great.
Yeah, because they needed people to check in. So we've helped there too.
A few years ago, two of us helped at like when they did the Halloween book
Oh, wow.
drop off. So yeah, we're happy to help.
Cool, thank you. Good to hear.
All right, so I think we'd be ready to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
I move that we adjourn.
A second?
I'll do that.
Okay. And then do all those in favor or?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes.